Welcome, my friends. Another Tools of the Trade. Not exactly a flight simulator tool, but it actually is a very useful tool. It's a web page. It's called windy.com. I just wanted to say you can see it up here, but that's where my header is. But I have the URL also in the header. It's called windy.com. It's a web page. You can go there. It is free as far as I can see. I think you can register there, but you don't have to in order to use the service. And what you can see here is, well, what the name says, windy.com. And yes, I'm going to try and keep it short. I really try and keep it short. Sort of aiming at 20 to 25 minutes max, because I know sometimes my tools of the trades get a bit long. So here we go. What we see here is winds. Yeah. And by the color, you can actually see where there is light winds and where there's strong winds. Only little thing is, when there are very, very strong winds, they look almost like no winds. So if you look down here, there's a color scale here. Yeah, so it can be a bit confusing because sometimes the colors appear to repeat, especially if you have some kind of color blindness. I have a weakness on the blue colors. So for me, it can be a bit hard to interpret what I see. But then again, you also have this fantastic animation. And what we see here is we have a hurricane, and it has got closer to the Bahamas. Because I looked at it yesterday and it was still a good bit further away, and it looks like if it continues on this path, it looks as if there may be landfall not only on the Bahamas. I'm already guessing that these guys here have a hard time already. So I hope it's not going to be too bad for them. And then if it continues like this and the general winds look like it, we might actually see something like that hitting Florida or so. That's not good. That's not good at all. But hurricane season, I'm not sure when it actually starts. Looks like it has started now with the first big hurricane. But the hurricane is just a very prominent example what this page can do. You don't have to have a hurricane in order to really use it very well. So for example, if we take my current set of flights, I'm intending to make flights from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and via several intervals over to Europe, bringing the Aerobasque Eclipse 550, a small jet from the US to Munich in Germany. And my first real trip is from Santa Fe here in New Mexico to Kansas City. And the good thing here now is I can see the currently prevailing winds at the bottom, at ground level. So at the moment, it is night in the US because we have 9 o'clock, roughly 9 o'clock on Sunday morning. And that is about 9 hours or so. We're talking probably around midnight in Santa Fe. It could be 1 o'clock, something like that. So we have relatively, in brackets, low temperatures, because during the day this goes up quite a bit. And the winds are where there is some wind, but it's not too bad. If we would be flying from Santa Fe now, what we would see is that here's the airport. So the winds are coming from the east. So we would have to probably take off towards the east and then fly. By the way, there is a Las Vegas, but I don't think it's the Las Vegas. It is a small little town of Las Vegas, because the other Las Vegas, the really well-known, is somewhere else. I got a bit flustered by that, because I thought, oh God, we're going to fly past Las Vegas, and I thought, but hang on, something is not right here. Is Las Vegas really the Las Vegas? I'm not sure actually. So I don't think it is, because yeah, doesn't look like it. It's Las Vegas in New Mexico, and we're talking about another Las Vegas, which is a bit further over here. But yeah, you can correct me if I'm actually if I'm actually confused. I'm a bit confused actually. Anyway, so we're flying this direction. The winds are on the ground level. Well, they kind of come from the south towards the northwest. Now the thing is, what I can do with this program is I can go to a flight level. For example, flight level 370, or at least around 370. Let's take 390. And what we can see is that for our flight from Santa Fe, New Mexico to Kansas City, the winds aren't exactly in favor because hefty winds come from the side. Red means they're quite strong, those winds, which means that with our light jet, we would probably have to counteract the side wind effect that we get, and that would definitely use more fuel. What I can do now is I can actually move the altitude further down and, for example, go to flight level 100. And what we would see then is that flight level 100 isn't very high. So from a fuel consumption point of view, it would not be ideal. But what we can see, if I would fly now, we have partially favorable winds and only very light winds on flight level 100. Now let's go to flight level 180, for example. And as we can see now, things have changed. Okay. Not ideal. Actually, the winds almost against us. So flight level 180 isn't really favorable. 240, it gets worse. Actually, up here around Kansas City at the moment, we would have pretty strong winds. This looks also like probably some storm cell or something. So at the moment, if we would fly now, I would probably fly somewhere between, well, probably around flight level 100, possibly, because it could be that if we play with the parameters, it could be that we would not be worse off, because we have much less wind effects that are taking away from our power that we have. Because if you have strong winds against you, or even from the side, you need more fuel and engine to counteract that, because we will continuously have to fly into the wind, and that will always be less favorable. And the stronger the winds are, the more this effect is, the slower we actually fly, and the more fuel we'll take. That could, though, be counteracted by flying at flight level 100, even with low winds. So it could be that it makes more sense to fly higher and take a hit from the wind than to fly too low and take a hit from the low altitude, which also means more fuel consumption. So something that I would have to look at my flight planning, but I would do this at the time when I do it. So this is actually the main thing of windy.com. That's why I actually called it up. But then I discovered, hang on, there is more. So for example, there's a weather radar. The weather radar here gives you, look at that, thunderstorms, cells. So at the moment, Santa Fe and Albuquerque are pretty quiet. There are some small little clouds around with a bit of precipitation. Here in Amarillo and in the area, Memphis, we have quite a bit of activity. Then past Oklahoma, Tulsa, there are some cells, and in Illinois, St. Louis, there's also quite a bit of activity. Lucky enough for us, at least if we would be flying now, we're flying to Kansas, so we're okay. There may be the odd little cell or small cloud with a bit of rain on the way, but if we are high enough, it should not be a problem. But you can see, yeah, there are some really hefty weather cells around, and they can impact on your flight planning. The other thing is the satellite images. These are the standard satellite images. They give you the kind of cloud images that you know from the news. Then the wind layers, we had that already. You can also look at areas with high gusting winds. Then there's the rain. So here you can check the rain, the amount of rain. The more it goes into the pink, the higher it is. Green and pink. The color scales are a little... Can you change this? No. Okay. So these are the sources. They can be a little bit confusing, I think. And by the way, this is a forecast here when it comes to the rain. So let's have a quick look. So you can check if your airports that you're planning to fly from. Here's Kansas. Here is New Mexico. So we may have actually some rain on the way, depending where's Kansas. Yeah, it is possible that we're actually passing through some rain here in the next hours. You could also look for snow and for thunderstorms. Okay, so this is a similar picture that we've seen before. The temperatures actually in the desert, Phoenix and Tucson and all these places here, by the way, is the other Las Vegas, the real Las Vegas. Now I found it in Nevada, obviously, not in New Mexico. Yeah, it's night, but it's 33 degrees. So at the moment, there's a lot of work for those air conditionings, I suppose. It's not as hot in New Mexico at the moment. It will probably get hot during the day. This is going to heat up quite a bit, I'm pretty sure. Temperatures are important because temperature will give you an indication of what your engines, what the power of your engines will be for takeoff, for example. The hotter it is, the less power the engines produce, and yeah, you need to make sure that that you're not exceeding any kind of limits. It's probably not a problem for us, but yeah, still. Then clouds. Obviously, when we're flying IFR, clouds are not as important, although they give you an indication of where there may be weather. I mean, weather that you don't really like to have, but nevertheless. So we have some light cloud coverage along the way around Dodge. We have already seen there's a thunderstorm. And here is some hefty cloud coverage. The whiter, I think, the whiter it is, I think the more or the thicker the clouds are, or the higher. I'm not sure what the scale is. And you can see already that there are precipitation. So if there is precipitation in the cloud, you can see it here, some millimeters per, I don't know, per square meter or something. The redder this gets, the more rain falls, and the redder it is, the less you want to fly into it. So you can look at low clouds. Low clouds can be interesting for VFR. On our way from Albuquerque, Santa Fe to Kansas City, we don't seem to have many. 14 minutes. The cloud layer, so you can look at the altitude. The redder it is, the lower the clouds are, and the more relevant, especially for small aircraft and for VFR flying, this is. The visibility, also very important. And here the scale is, by the way, green is VFR conditions, okay, with more than 10 miles, statute miles. Marginal VFR is with about 6 kilometers or 4 statute miles. IFR and LIFR is kind of a marginal IFR, low visibility IFR, or whatever that means, the, the more magenta or violet this gets, the more critical it is. And it could well be that in these violet areas you may not be able to land or go there. You could also look at waves. This is more for sea-bound craft, I would think. And there's the air quality, which is relevant if you live in a big city, and the ozone values and things like that. So when we look at the world map here, which is also quite interesting, we can see there are some hefty things around here. So this is probably the equator, or around the equator, and there are these. I forgot what you call this zone, but it is a zone of a lot of turbulence, clouds, and can be quite dangerous actually also to aircraft. Conversions, something I forgot what this is called, but you can see it quite nicely here along the equator. This all has to do with the circling of the Earth and all that, but I'm not a meteorologist. I can't even say that word. So the further up you go, you can see some very low visibility here in the north towards the polar circle. This is Greenland, whereas Iceland is here, so there's some good visibility. That'll be interesting for us when we do the crossing. So for example, today when we look at the winds and the visibility and so on, this could be actually a problem, because we do have strong winds opposing us. So if we would now be here somewhere in, I don't know, Goose Bay or wherever we would start our transfer over to Greenland, this wouldn't be the best day possibly to do this. Anyway, 17 minutes. I think that's enough. Should I tell you, my first video was 45 minutes. I was just getting carried away, showing you all these things and talking and talking and talking. But I think 17 minutes is enough. It tells you everything you should know, and it tells you that this is one of the great tools, and it's really, really good for flight simulation as well, if you want to do a little bit of more realism with your hobby. That's it. Until next time.